Hey everybody, Rock DIY here. This is what I have. Front calipers for a 1997 Toyota Century V12. The Toyota Century uses the same calipers as a 1997 Lexus LS400. So the good thing is I was able to get these in the United States and they were $130 each. And they're the exact same ones as the original ones that came off the car. There's no difference. In fact, the Sumitomo stamp is there as well as there, and I can't find any difference in them. If you do order these, these came from a Toyota parts department in Scottsdale, Arizona. It took about a week to get here. Also got new brake pads. I'll discuss those in a minute. If you do order the brake calipers, it was unclear exactly what the calipers came with. It's kind of deceptive, but it does come with the bleeder boot. Well, both of them do. Comes with the new bleeder, comes with the spring that holds the brake pad pins in, and you also have these that are pre-installed. They have a hex screw that holds them in, and those are your sliders. And if you look at the old ones, you almost don't even notice that they're there. That's what they look like when they're new. You can also see these have the seals on them, and one of the issues with the original calipers is they were either gone or destroyed. That's what came in a kit. I don't know how long these things sat on a shelf, but they had these plugs in the box. They weren't in here. I'm just hoping that nothing got inside this because the plug wasn't it, because there's a lot of fibrous material in the boxes that they came in. And these are Toyota genuine parts, just as well as the brake pads are. This is the right side, and one of the hints that it's the right side is this spring right here, because it holds the brake pad wear sensor indicator cable that goes through there. And this one does not have it, so this is the left front side. Now I want to point this out real quick, because you could do this where you buy new brake calipers and brake pads, or you just buy new brake pads to put on. And it's really important to note that, so this is the right side, stamped right there, right side. When these brake pads go in, so if this was on the vehicle, of course it would be on the right hand side, on the driver's side. This side would be to the inside, this would be to the outside. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because there is the bottom side and then there's the top side, and the reason the way that you know which is the top and which is the bottom is right here. This piece is longer, this side is shorter. And I really point that out because it matters how these brake pads go in. You could just assume that you just pop them in there because they'll go wherever you put them. The only thing is you got this cutout right here, and that cutout needs to be at the bottom. So specifically on this one, this brake pad would go in like this, being that this is the bottom, and you got the cutout there. And then on this side, brake pad would go on this side because the cutout's at the bottom. These cutouts need to be at the bottom, not at the top. But you can see that you could actually put it in just like that, but this would be at the top and you want it at the bottom. This is one of the new brake pads, and this is the original, same side. And you can see there's about 1/8 of a difference in the brake pad wear. So these aren't that old, but unfortunately when you order these brake pads, and there's a set of 4, they do not come with a shim plate on the back side. On the old ones, they do have a shim plate, and this would go on here as such. If the shim plates aren't damaged, you can clean them up and then put them on your new ones. Or what you could do is you can use some of this disc brake quiet There's different brands out there. The only thing is, if you use this, you can only put it on here. If you have these shims, you cannot put this on the shims or between the shim and the brake pad, because these shims won't work properly. The shims are supposed to reduce vibration, noise, squeals, all that stuff, even though one of the issues with the brakes was that there was some squealing. I'm not 100% sure where it was coming from, but it could have been coming from the front or the back of the car. What I'm going to do is not use this at all. I'm going to take the original shims off the old brake pads, put them on the new brake pads, and put them into the calipers. All these shims have been removed from the original brake pads, and you can see on between the shim and the brake pad there's a lot of buildup from dirt and rust, and you can see it on all of them. I had already cleaned the shims on the back side, so if you do reuse the shims, you definitely want to make sure you clean them really good, because like this one had some really good rust buildup on it. Clean those up. And I think the reason why they say not to use any of this disc brake quiet stuff is because these shims have a coating on them on this side, nothing on the back side. That's probably the reason why you don't put any on it, is because it's already got a very thin, probably a factory applied coating, and you can tell just because where the pistons on the calipers come into contact with the shims, you can feel it. I am going to reuse these, and you can probably tell they're all exactly the same. There's no difference, so these can go on any of the brake pads. As far as I can tell, the numbers on the back are the same. Unfortunately, I can't see all of the numbers completely on all of them, but I believe the numbers are the same for all of them. When you do clean these, you do want to make sure that you do not bend them up, because when they go on the brake pads, you want them to be as flat and have complete contact with the plate on the back of the brake pad. If they go on too loose, you can just bend the tabs a little bit. Just be careful not to overbend them or damage them. That one's good. Put this one on. That's kind of loose. Yeah, some of them, they just kind of fall on. So you may have to just get a pair of pliers and adjust the tab a little bit. Best thing to do is just adjust the top one. Just grab a pair of pliers, bend it down slightly, and then test it to see that it stays on. On the original brake pads, when I removed them from the old calipers, these shim plates, two of them actually fell off as I took the pads out. So not a good sign if they're not staying adhered to the back plate of the brake pad. I have the brake caliper. I have the new brake pads with the old shims that I'm using. I didn't say it, but if you want to order new shims, you can order new shims instead of using the originals. I'm choosing to use the originals. So those are ready to go. The other things that you're going to need that aren't included is, this is your brake pad wear sensor indicator cable, and this only goes on the right side caliper. Both the front right side caliper and the rear right side caliper have this cable. The left side does not have them. Then there's this spring, and then there's this clip. This clip is considered a non-serviceable part. You're supposed to replace it, not reuse it, but I'm going to reuse it because there's nothing wrong with it. And I'll show how that goes on. Now, as far as the bleeder valve, this is already on the cable, so I'm just going to keep this one, and I'll just put this away and possibly use it. In the future, I'll leave this in place because I don't need to do anything with it, and I'll leave this in place because I don't need to do anything with that. But I will need to remove this spring and these pins, and the way that you do this is you pull this pin here, lift it up. Once you lift it up, then you can pull up this side and then pull out the opposite side. So that goes like that. And I didn't say this originally, but anytime you do this, it's always good to take pictures. especially when you do the disassembly, so that you can always reference your pictures. Video is a little bit hard to do that. Pictures just a lot easier, just thumb through to find what you need. So yeah, take pictures. So that's going to come off, and then these two pins come out very easily when they're new. Now it's really important that you do want to use grease on the brake pads. So anywhere that you have metal to metal contact, you do want to use some grease. So on these brake pads, specifically the way that they go in, they have contact along this side and here, 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 and then also where the pins go through. And you do want to put grease on these inside the brake caliper. You do want to avoid trying to get it anywhere else, because you definitely do not want to get it on the brake pad itself. So what I'm going to do before I do anything else is I'm going to put grease on all these contact points, and I do have a tube of grease that was specifically bought for brake components. What I'm doing with this grease is I'm using a paintbrush to apply it, because if I try to do this with my finger, I'm going to get it all over the place. You don't want to go crazy with the grease, and you definitely don't want to go too thin with the grease. So I'm kind of lightly holding the brush, not really pressing it. And I'm just applying the grease to all of the contact points. It's kind of hard to see it, but it's a decent coat. Nothing crazy. And then just go back over, make sure you got everything. The next thing you're going to do is put your brake pad wear sensor indicator cable on the inside brake pad. And the way that you know you're putting it on the right side is it's the same side as the bleeder valve where your brake line hooks up, where Sumitomo stamp is. So this is going to go on this brake pad. And so what I did, this is the bottom of the caliper. I just oriented pads to make sure that I put them in the right place. And the cutout that I mentioned previously, right here and right here, are going to be on the bottom. So as far as the brake pad wear sensor indicator cable, it needs to go on like this, and you know that you're putting it on the right because there's a little nub right here, and this is going to slide onto the brake pad like this. And what happens is, as the brake pad wears, it eventually gets to the point where it starts shaving that nub off, disconnects the two wires, which causes you to get the alert that your brake pads need to be replaced. So you can see you actually got quite a bit of pad that you can use before you need to replace them. The next thing that needs to be done is this clip has to be put on, and the clip hopefully you can see that, but it goes like that, and then you just slide it over the back side. So that will be right there, and you can see that it's staying in place. It's got a little bit of play in it, but it will stay there. There's that. So the next thing I need to do is I do need to put some grease on these. But I have to be careful putting the grease on these, because it'd be very easily to take the grease from these and put them on the pads. But you're going to have to slide this through here, and also through both brake pads. So you do want that grease in there. If you have a grease gun that's got a needle point on it, you can use it to apply the grease after the fact. But otherwise, you'll have to put the grease on and then slide these pins through. But you also have this spring that needs to go in there. So I'm going to place these in here. Trying to keep my hands off the brake pads. And one of the things you can do to prevent these from constantly falling out of place is take a clean rag and stuff it down in the bottom here between the two pads to keep it from constantly, because they will constantly fall out and move around. I'm just going to take some paper towel. Doesn't take a lot to keep them in place, but you do want to keep them in there. Grease up the pins real quick. One greased up pin. And put the next one on. Alright, so those are ready. Now this spring needs to go in, and it's going to go just like this. So this part facing down, right here, these will be facing up, and that's where your pins are going to slide across. So you want them sitting just like that. Then what you're going to do is rock it forward so that you can put the first pin through. Goes very easily. And then your second pin is going to be a little more difficult because you have to push this down in order to get this pin across here. Best way to do it is bend it down, slide it right across. Next thing is going to be putting your clip in here. And so you want to put your wire through, and then you're going to insert it in here. You may have to get something either pointed to turn the pin, or use a pair of pliers on the opposite end to turn it, or this end, because you may have to turn it just a little bit to get that pin in there. So that side is in, and then you don't want to put that in yet because you got to get this side in, but you need to make sure this is turned so that the hole that passes through the pin is facing up. Slightly turned to the left. Alright, so that's in. Now what you can do is take this, pull it out, and then push it back in. And that's going to keep those pins in place, keep this here. And then what you're going to do is just take this. You do want to make sure that you put these rubber boots on your bleeder valves, and you do want to be careful with putting grease inside these, even though grease, I think silicone grease is good for these as far as making them last. But you want to be careful putting a bunch of it inside, because if you put this on, you may shove grease into that fitting, and then you'll push grease through your brake system, and you don't want to do that. There it is. That one is done. Remove the paper towel. It grabbed onto the paper towel. All right. So this one is ready to go. Same thing, passenger side, and this is passenger left side. L stamped right there. First things first, need to remove this clip, pull it up, or pull it out and then up, lift it up, take it off. And then you're going to take these two pins out. This caliper has a lot of fibers from the box that it was in. Alright, so first thing that needs to be done is grease needs to be applied to the brake slides that are in all four corners. Use a paintbrush rather than my fingers to apply. So you don't need to get crazy with it. You don't want to put it too thick because the grease will end up in places where it's not supposed to be. And you don't want to put it too thin. And you can get brake component grease just about anywhere. Grease is applied where it needs to be, and then again as far as orientation, you want to make sure the ramped portion of the pad is on the downside. So in this case, this brake pad will go on this side. The little cutout is on this side. This is the lower side. This is the pointed side over here. So you know that ramp part. So this is the bottom of the caliper. And then this brake pad will go on this side. And then again, you may want to put a towel or a rag in between the pads just to keep them in place. Otherwise, they like to move around, fall out. Next thing you need to do is grease the pins again. Then the spring will go in here, oriented like that. You slide the first pin through to the other side. And when you're sliding the pins through, it's always best to slide them through with the hole facing up. Makes it easier to put the clip on the other side. Then on this side, you're gonna have to push the spring down, push the pin through. See here, the pin holes are facing up. Take this, put it in there, put this one, turn it a little bit. Now once you got those in, pull this out, put it in. There you go. 2 front brake calipers done. Ready to go.